Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Stephen Beach. I'm producer of the Byte Extra Crunchy podcast, as you can see on this graphic behind me that Brian Tong emailed me this morning. It's the Byte Extra Crunchy podcast with your host, Mr. Brian Tong.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Hey, Beach and Tong in the house. You know how we do it. It is episode 118 for those of you who are watching the podcast. 119. Oh my gosh, you're right. It is 119. I read the wrong number.
It's all good.
All good. Thank you for correcting me. Where would I be without you, Beach? Where would I be? It is 119. In case you guys and gals watch this actual podcast, let us know if something looks different. Does my camera look better? Slightly?
It looks way better, man.
Does? Okay, good. That's the whole point. Because people have been complaining, so I'm like, fine, I'll dish out some of that cheddar and make it better. Yeah, some squirrel. So again, this is the Byte Extra Crunchy. This is our complimentary piece to our weekly video podcast. We know there is so much going on this week, but again, the number to be a part of our show, and you keep the calls coming, and we love it. 1-800-616-2638. Your name, where you're from, and get your comments. I think this week again, you kind of got you guys and gals like upped your game, and you're like efficient, you're to the point, but you're also bringing new information and stuff. So we love it. We got a lot of calls in today. But let's talk about the big. What do you think the big story is this week, Beach? The lead story.
Is it white rings on the HomePod?
It's white rings. It's white rings, man. Okay, so we know the HomePod came out Friday last week, and I did my review. So for those of you that watch the video stuff, you can check out my review. We'll touch upon a little bit about it. But right, less than a week after it came out, the headline that was popping all over the place was that Apple confirms that the HomePod can leave white rings on some wood surfaces with oil or wax finishes. Now, there were actual pictures. The reports first came out of Wirecutter and Pocket Lint, so we've got to give them props. But Mac Rumors kind of put their photos and put it in a single article. But you can actually see it's not just like a faint white circle. It's a very obvious, deliberate white circle. And everyone's like, I was like, dude, Apple, like even this, like 1 week in, we're seeing this, right? So
it's not even. It doesn't even feel like a week, man.
It's not even a week. It's not even a week. It's less than a
few
week.
Days.
It happened on what, Tuesday or Wednesday? When this started happening?
Yeah.
So okay, fine. Let's just talk about this really quickly. So they showed the pictures. They said this has got to be an issue. Apple did give comment to both websites. They first told Pocket Lint that it's not unusual for a speaker with a silicone base. This is the keyword, the silicone base, to leave a mild mark when placed on certain oiled or waxed surfaces. So suggesting that there's this chemical reaction that happens between silicone and some of these different types of treated wood, which is exactly what is happening. It's happening to multiple people. I have the HomePod that I reviewed on a wood surface, but I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's like on a Target table, so it's probably not a fancy table.
Yeah, but some people are going to be, some people have really expensive, nice wooden tables, and that would really piss my wife. We just got a new dining room table. If the HomePod did that to my wife's new table, I would probably be dead. I wouldn't be here. I'd be dead.
She would freak out.
She would murder me.
You'd be in trouble, bro. We wouldn't have, this podcast would be no longer. It'd be like,
it'd be done.
Be Tong. It wouldn't even be Beach and Tong. It'd just be Tong. It'd be me sitting in the corner with like a dark light on my face. So they also commented to Wirecutter that the marks can improve over several days after the speaker is removed from the wood surface. And if they don't fade on their own, Apple's advice was to try cleaning the surface with the manufacturer's suggested oiling method.
Really?
So you're basically telling me to refinish my wood tables that I probably don't have the finish for. You know what I'm saying?
I read something like use a damp cloth or something like that, or a dry cloth. Maybe that wasn't from Apple, but
no, you're right. You're right. That's you're foreseeing the future. But Apple did say that about cleaning the actual outside of the HomePod, not the bottom of it, though. But you're right. So they're like, yeah, use a dry cloth. Apple even released this document called Cleaning and Taking Care of HomePod. And this is so great. Like, I know people are rolling their eyes like, I can't, like, seriously. I still, when I heard this, I couldn't believe it, but it is what it is. So there's a section in this article that talks about taking care of the HomePod. And it says, learn where to put HomePod and what to avoid to keep HomePod safe. Again, we are going to kind of jump ahead through this whole statement, but they did mention that the marks can be caused by oils diffusing between the silicone base and the table surface. If the marks persist, clean the surface with the manufacturer's recommended thing. We talked about that. I love this is the last line. If you're concerned about this, we recommend placing your HomePod on a different surface.
Put it somewhere else.
You're putting it on the wrong place to listen to it wrong. Like, you're holding it wrong. It's like a 10 gate.
Putting it in the wrong place. I also like that they're referring it to as HomePod and not the HomePod. You know, it's kind of like that iPhone. It's not plural. It's not singular. It's like its own thing.
I have five HomePod. So that was like, and this is right out of the gates. Again, this is a $349 smart speaker. I'm going to be kind right now. But I also want to make this clear. Actually, the HomePod isn't the only one that is having this issue. Apple gets a lot of attention with it, but an article that was just posted out by Tom's Guide and other people were kind of rumbling about this. I've also confirmed that the Sonos One's base also can damage some wood surfaces as well. There's a little picture of a HomePod and a Sonos One right next to each other. You can see the ring on the HomePod. You can kind of see the rounded square corners of the Sonos One. But this is a thing that is affecting speakers when there's a silicone base on it of any kind. So it's just something now to know. I just don't want to make it like, oh my gosh, Apple, you suck. Although I will say, like, bruh, you had 6 years to try it and put this on like every They had 6 years to try this. Yeah. You're telling me no one at Apple HQ with the really big houses haven't tried to put it on like a fancy wood surface?
Oh, they had it. They had it on some fancy wood. Maybe they just didn't want to. They just didn't want to say anything. Maybe they were scared. I don't know.
Either way, I did come up with a solution on Twitter yesterday. I posted it immediately. I'm pretty sure there's going to be something like the Apple Coaster that comes out. Just a nice, just call it the Apple Coaster, get it over with, charge like $40 for it to put your HomePod underneath it. A company called Pad and Quill decided to instantly capitalize on this, and they're releasing a like leather coaster to prevent the HomePod from marking your surfaces.
Then that's going to ruin the leather, man. That's a bummer.
Well, the leather piece of the sacrificial lamb, maybe. What is it going to be? Your friendly finished wood table or what?
Sometimes putting a speaker on those like diffuser pads makes them sound even better, So, I mean, maybe Apple will come out with something like that, but that is a huge bummer. I mean, yeah, you're saying they had 6 years to test this thing out?
Like they've worked on this for 6 years, dude. Okay, yeah. Fine. I'll give them even 3 years. I'll give them 3 years for like at least having a form factor. 2. I'll be kind. 2. They had 2 years.
It's weird though. This rubber that they make speakers and like even headphones out of, it does like deteriorate over time. It just kind of like starts degrading. So It's strange that these oils are coming out of the speakers already, within a few days. And it's just deteriorating. It's just going to like crumble on your desk over a period of years and years. Like, I mean, even these headphones, like they just kind of start falling apart and you could start ripping the pieces out,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a thing with speakers in general, I believe, but it's not happened to my Echo. I'm sorry. My Echo Dot is not leaving a mark.
Dude, they don't have silicone on the bottom of it.
I know.
They don't. It's just a fact, right? It's a chemical reaction between that. So that's what happens. Hey, Beach, have you actually heard the HomePod that much?
I have heard the HomePod because we're doing this infinite loop video right now that's streaming.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. It really does. Like compared to the Google Home, compared to the other things I've heard, the sound is superior. The bass, everything. It just sounds really good. It's crazy.
And I 100% agree with you. I think what's weird is that a lot of reviewers, right? Like, I'm not trying to rip on them because a lot of them are my friends, but they get this product from Apple. They don't have to buy it, and they pop it out. And when you first play it, I mean, it sounds awesome. Like for its size, you're like, holy crap! I can't believe something this size has this much boom. And just like this full feeling of sound. It's really nice. And then what I did is after, I got past that, I actually put it side by side to a Google Home Max, not a Google Home. Because we know, look, the Apple speaker is pretty much going to dominate the regular Amazon Echo, the regular Google Home. So you've got to put it also against things that are kind of more around its price point. So I put it next to the Google Home Max. And then what I kind of found over time is when I'm just listening to HomePod in itself, I'm like, oh, this is awesome, right? And I listen to a lot of deep, heavy bass stuff. So it's the mids are sick and everything. But then I popped out the Google Home Max side by side and I was playing like some classical music, some kind of like more classic rock, even some pop stuff. And what I found is that the HomePod sounds great, but when you put it next to something like the Google Home Max, like the highs, the trebles, like the vocals, there's a lot of detail that's lost in the HomePod. So it's kind of only when you have it side by side can you say, oh, it does sound a little muddier. Like I can't hear Adam Levine's voice as clearly as I would like to. I can't believe I'm admitting that. It just actually was a random track that happened to pop up on my. It just happened to pop up, right? Duh.
Yeah.
But so people reviewed it, audiophiles. They've done all these like different types of testing, and no one doubts that the sound is really great. But again, Beach, you of all people know this, right? Isn't sound also kind of subjective to not only how your ear hears things, but also the genres of music you listen to?
Oh, definitely. I mean, bass is going to sound different in hip hop than it is in metal and other things in classical music. Like, I would use something that you've listened to like all your life that you're just used to what it sounds like, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe like Dr. Dre would be a good example for using the HomePod to compare to other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely is your ear and, you know, what you're used to hearing and what you want to hear. You're kind of like listening for what you want to hear, you know?
It's true. That's totally true.
So, but the HomePod definitely had a fullness that I was not expecting. Like the fullness of the sound is really startling, you know? I'm like, oh my God, it does sound really great.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And so, you know, other outlets like Consumer Reports, they said pretty much what I had found and what I put in my video before their article even dropped is, right, just not as much detail with the highs or vocals. And they even outright said, look, the HomePod sounds good, but they felt that the Google Home Max and the Sonos One sound better than the HomePod. But again, this is just one outlet saying that. You have other outlets saying other things. And I just don't like the fact that people kind of get caught up like, oh, specifically with audio and sound quality, they hear one thing and they believe it. It's like, you just got to hear this stuff for yourself. Yeah. Don't listen to anyone about this crap.
I haven't heard the Sonos or the Google Max, but I do feel like they really spend a lot of time focusing on the low end because that's what like gets people, you know, like low end. When you walk into like a concert and you hear all that low end, it's like, oh, like there's something magic happening up there, you know? Yeah. So I feel like Apple definitely focused on the low end and maybe they didn't focus so much on the high end. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know, it's even in a way, it's kind of how, look, Apple has this Beats acquisition. They've worked closely together. People know that if historically purchased Beats music, they're tuned to give you deeper bass, more boom, and a full mid, but the highs are kind of lose that detail. And I think that kind of DNA from their Beats acquisition that is flowed into their headphones was also part of this as well. I mean, you can feel it's a tiny speaker that gives you some real boom, and you're like, damn,
know they consulted Dre, man. They brought they brought him in a room and him and Jimmy Iovine were like, what do you guys think of the low end? You know, and he's like, oh, need a little more.
Let me turn this up a little. Let me turn this up. So you guys can check out, you know, the review that I put out. The thing is that we know a lot of the things, and I don't want to go into detail, right? It doesn't support Bluetooth, so Android phones or non-iPhones can't use it. But there were a few nuggets of things that I found that I thought were interesting that people weren't really talking about as much. When The Verge put out their review, they talked about how if someone is using the HomePod, it is linked to really a specific user in one iOS account.
Yeah.
And so someone could walk by it and say like, oh, read the latest message or let me send a message. Like someone could basically hijack a few of your things with messages, notes, and reminders. Well, what we found is that sure, that might be the case, but once I leave, let's say I take my phone away and I go down to the grocery store, people won't be able to play around and add notes or reminders or check my messages when I'm gone. You have to actually be in range of the HomePod.
Yeah, we were running into that problem doing the this infinite loop thing that we're doing. I couldn't trigger it, you know, like we had to get Lexi to come trigger it. Yeah, we also had to have the phone sitting next to them for the whole period of time, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but you know, it is what it is.
I mean, I guess it's a security thing to a certain degree, but again, I don't want to beat it to death because I think we beat it to death before it even came out. Everything that we had expected about the HomePod was pretty much true, right? Its limitations, its lack of smarts when it comes to a voice assistant. The other thing that I thought that was they weren't going to promote it, but I thought something like adding speakerphone to the HomePod would have been so easy.
Oh,
Like
totally.
it does support it, but you can't talk to it and say, "Hey, call." You can't say, "Hey Siri, call blankety blank." You actually have to call from your phone physically and then use AirPlay to send the sound from your phone to the speaker, whether you are making a call or whether you're receiving a call. So that was an easy low hanging fruit. Like just make it a cool speakerphone. It can't even do that. And then the other thing, I'm not expecting it to work with Android phones, but I feel, look, if you have, if you made Apple Music as a service for Android users, you've got to make it easier for someone to use that product. Like it's not that hard to do. Whether fine, if you don't believe in Bluetooth, fine, but give other users a way to use it. So the fact of the matter is that if you have Apple Music and you're an Android user, you can actually use the HomePod, but you need someone with a phone to set it up for you. It has to run iOS 11, and then they can enter in your Apple Music credentials. But that's the only way an Android user could use a HomePod. I know it's not supposed to be for everyone, but it wasn't that hard to let them do that. So, amongst all the other things, again, it's a really limited product. It's right now for me, it's definitely not worth $349. I mean, I put down
Oh
my money
no.
for it because that's how I look at it. I review it based on, okay, I've dropped this much cash on it. Is it really worth it? It's definitely not. Like you could literally buy an Echo and probably a starter light kit, like a smart light kit with like 2 or 3 light bulbs, a starter kit for the same price as the HomePod. Okay.
Man.
Think about that. Like you want to get involved in the smart home, it's a better smart home, and you get light bulbs. Like, come on. So
Yeah, light
you
bulbs
really
ain't
got to
cheap
be like,
either. Those smart light bulbs, they are not cheap.
you got to be so diehard Apple for this product. It's so narrow of a focus and it's so locked down. So just check out the review. There's a lot of nuggets in there, but I think people that have been listening to us already know where we stand, and I don't want to keep on making them feel like we're negative about it. We're just telling you there's even more things that make it even more limited than what we thought. So
Yeah. But it does sound
but
great. It sounds awesome.
it sounds good. It does sound good. I mean, if that was their goal, if that was their only goal, then they definitely did it. All right, bro. Should we take a little breather to show some love to our sponsor that keeps
Let's
the lights
do it.
on?
Let's do it.
All
Go
right,
for
let's
it.
check this out. Today's show is brought to you by Jamf. Now, Apple's device management can be time-consuming work, especially if it isn't your day job. Like if IT isn't your thing, yeah, it's tough. So with Jamf now, keeping up with your equipment is a breeze. Jamf now helps you manage your Apple devices from anywhere. You need to secure that iPad that your sales rep lost while visiting home for the holidays. Sure, visiting home for the holidays. Jamf now allows you to configure settings, protect sensitive information, even lock or wipe a device no matter where you are. Now, even as your business grows, you'll be able to keep track of everyone's iMacs, iPhones, iPads with ease. We've talked about it. CNET uses Jamf actually, and that way you can focus on your business with no IT expertise needed. So check it out. Our listeners, Apple by Nation, you can set up your first 3 devices for free. You can add more for just $2 a month per device, and you can start securing your business today. So go to Jamf, that's JAMF.com/crunchy to create a free account and set up your 3 free devices today. That's Jamf, JAMF.com/crunchy. Booyah.
All right. Sweet. Thank you, Jamf.
Thank you, Jamf. Jamf, man. Jamf, man. So we talked about a bunch of HomePod stuff. I mean, that's really the hot thing that's going on this week, even last week. But we wanted to transition over to some more news. Obviously, we're getting close to March. We're probably going to see some interesting stuff just because March historically has been a time period where Apple has announced new products. We'll see. I mean, maybe we'll see some new iPads. Maybe we'll see an iPhone SE2. It's not really clear. Maybe we'll see the AirPower. Can we get an AirPower by March?
Let's get
Apple?
an AirPower, please.
Maybe. All right. But the latest report, this is kind of a follow-up to what Bloomberg had talked about earlier, is how Apple is now changing their fundamental development strategy to root out bugs and revamp the iPhone software. Now, we talked about, it was either last week or a couple weeks ago, how they're going to push back certain features, focus on some core ones, and move those secondary features over to next year because really they want to focus on fixing the bugs. Like their annual software upgrade this year will feature a new single set of apps that works across iPhones, iPads, and iMacs. So, right, a universal apps is one of their targets. That's going to be met. This is according to the Bloomberg report. There also is going to be a digital health tool to show parents how much time their children have been staring at their screen. And I know you want this the most, Beach, improvements to Animojis.
Oh, yes. That's what I've been waiting for.
I've been waiting for that my whole I've been waiting for this whole my life. So they also said some of the features that will be kind of pushed on the back burner is Apple's whole redesigned home screen that they were talking about for their iPhone, iPad, and CarPlay. CarPlay, I mean, people have called us so much about how they're just like, they've turned their backs on CarPlay. They're just like, I don't even care anymore. That's like a slap in the face to Apple users. Like they have shown it no love. And also a revamped Photos app that can suggest which images to view depending on what you're looking at. And this has kind of been put down by Craig Federighi. Look, I think in the past, the whole promise and what differentiated Apple from other companies, and when I say back then, I'm saying as far back as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but when you go further back, what was the reason or the allure of Apple? It was easy to use, it was bug free, and it was secure. Like those tended to be those tenets, like, and specifically like bug free, virus free, blah blah blah. That was one of the big things. Well, I mean, you look at like iOS 11 and just all the software things that they've been dealing with. You can argue that over time, Android is Android, but specifically Google's stock Android is cleaner. It's a little more simplified. Yeah, it has its own issues, but it didn't launch with like basically 5 or 6 major bugs consecutive week after week after week. In a weird way, even Apple users that have been around for a while have felt like because they're being spread so thin, this evolution of Apple is turned to like, Apple's more like Windows now than it ever used to be. And I'm not saying they're Windows, but they are moving along that path where they're so big and they're trying to get everything out every year. And it's not just 4 or 5 product categories. Now it's 10 or 12. Yeah. And it's going to take its toll.
Yeah. I remember when I first started working here, we were talking about that a lot, like fragmentation of Android, and now it feels like that's happening to Apple and everything that's coming out is buggy and it has an issue. But yeah, back in the day when Apple came out, it was like, this is how easy it is to use. You have this mouse and you click here and everything just works. There's no problems.
The whole thing, and what you just said, bro, it just works. That's like a classic phrase. And now everyone kind of throws it in their face because it doesn't just work anymore, you know?
It takes a lot of setting up and like troubleshooting now. It's, especially like older, I don't want to be like ageist or anything, but people who
you're going to be right now.
People who haven't grown up with it, or they have a lot harder time setting it up now. So it's not like your grandma's phone anymore. You know what I mean?
People are having trouble setting up the HomePod still. Honestly, like it's supposed to sync kind of like your AirPods, right? You hold it right next to your phone. The W1 chip is the communication kind of bridge. It pops up and it's supposed to be easy to set up. It's actually not easy to set up. Like a lot of people are having problems even getting their HomePod set up. So even something like that, it's a new age. So, we'll see. I think this slow burn strategy, if this is really what they're committed to, can help them in the long run. But look, they're still selling tens of millions of phones per quarter. Like, they're still dominating. So no matter what we say in a funny way, we can talk about them, we can make fun of them, we can like celebrate them. Whatever we say right now still doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter because who's still buying their phones?
Their brand cachet is just so powerful now. It's like the brand is so powerful.
Man. You're locked in. A new story that just dropped, I believe today, Apple is going to require all new apps to natively support the iPhone 10 display as of April of this year. So this was a note that was dropped to developers by Apple that starting from April 2018, if you have an app that comes out, it must support the iPhone 10's Retina display. That means, right, it has to go all the way to the edges. None of these like weird proportions or legacy stuff from earlier phones. It has to support that form factor as well as others. Apple's also not set a deadline when the updates for current existing apps must support iPhone 10 natively. But at least from April of this year, all new apps being built against the iOS 11 SDK will have to support that screen.
All right.
So I'll let you know that. But here's the thing. Beach, if there was one feature that you think Samsung was jealous of Apple, like an iOS feature, what do you think it would be?
I have no idea. The face unlock? I don't know.
What if I told you Animojis?
Why would they be jealous of that?
I don't know if they're jealous per se, but a report from ET News claims that the new Samsung Galaxy S9 that is expected to be announced on and revealed on February the 25th. We're going to actually have our own live coverage because guess what? We do stuff beyond just Apple.
Oh, yeah.
In case you didn't think that. I mean, come on, you already know that. So it's a new 3D emoji system that they are claiming is more advanced than Animojis. They don't have a name out for it yet, but is expected to come on February 25th, and Samsung will be loaded with their own facial recognition emoji platform.
All right, good for Samsung.
Congratulations,
emoji
Samsung.
game, man.
Congratulations, Samsung. You did it. You did it.
You made it,
dude. What do you want to? I have a name for them, but what would you want to call them, Beach?
For Samsungs?
What would you want to call them?
Man, I don't even know. I have to think about that for a while. I have no idea. What would you call them?
I think they're gonna call them Samojis.
Samojis.
Samojis. Something tells me they're gonna be Samojis.
Yeah, because is Animoji like copywritten by Apple or something?
Well, the Animoji was stolen by Apple from a developer from Japan who owned it for at least 3 or 4 years. Do you remember this story? Well, I mean, there's so much stuff that goes
something about it. Yeah.
So this developer had literally an app that was like cute cartoon characters. It was kind of a keyboard app that you could type out different characters that were kind of emojis based, but he called them Animojis. And Apple tried to act as a shell company to buy the trademark of Animoji from him without telling him that they were Apple.
That's right.
Right.
They were like posed.
They were posing.
They had a secret name for this company, a shell company.
And then they decided to try and go after him for that without acknowledging that it was actually Apple that was trying to go after him. And it's like, he's like, dude, what the hell? They're sitting on $280 billion. Just pay the man and take the name Animoji. Don't try and like hustle him like that. That's such crap, man.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I forgot about that story.
280 billion. I mean, it just came into my head, right? This stuff's like, there's like a treasure chest of crap in here now, right?
280 billion. Throw him a couple million, throw him some bucks, man.
It's like that's like Tim Cook just like flicking the dust off his wrist. Or
it's like
like
emptying his change drawer or something.
All right, in some iPhone news, we talked about how iPhone continues to just be gangbusters. No matter what we say, the Apple platform is alive and well. According to Linda Sui of Strategy Analytics, Apple has taken more than half of the global smartphone revenues for the fourth quarter of 2017. Over half. Basically, the fourth quarter of 2017 is Apple's Q1 of 2018, which is really that period from October, November to December. The firm says the iPhone captured a record 51% share of all smartphone wholesale revenues worldwide, noting that Apple had racked up $61 billion in the fourth quarter. Also, Apple's average selling price for phone, right, is getting close to $800. That's 3 times the industry average. Samsung's average selling price per phone is $254.
Wow.
So that's why they're dominating in revenues, because one of their closest competitors, really their closest competitor, their phone is basically a third of the price is what they're getting from an average selling price perspective. And again, Samsung sells all different kinds of phones from a wide range, from high to low. But that's beast, man.
That is beast. My friend and I were just talking about this last night. Like, that's like a few hundred phones a week, or a few 100,000 phones a week, or something like that. We kind of did the math, but not very good math.
100,000? Wait, what's the 100,000 phones?
How many iPhones they sell, like, per week or something?
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be like in the hundreds of thousands, maybe. I don't know. Insane. I could be totally wrong, but
not that it will affect it. Not that it'll affect it too much, but this next story, maybe those numbers might dip just like a teeny bit. That's because Verizon is no longer planning to sell unlocked iPhones. And this is actually a big deal for a lot of people. And why is that? Okay, so Verizon was one of the few carriers that sold an unlocked version of the phone. You would have to first like lock into like a 1 month data plan with them, but you could then, once that 1 month was done, you could then take this phone to other carriers. You could put it on AT&T. You could put it on T-Mobile.
Huh.
You could put it on. It was basically a global unlocked phone, right?
That's cool.
So Verizon though is preventing that from happening now. They said they want to get ahead of theft that's been happening, where people are stealing their phones. This is not just iPhones, too. This is unlocked phones, period. People are, but it's targeted more towards iPhones. People are stealing their phones, getting them unlocked and used on other carriers, or trying to sell them overseas.
Yeah.
Right where they work. So they're trying to prevent this. The thing about this is they also say Verizon is expecting to, if you have the phone for a certain amount of time, they will offer the ability to unlock the phone. They have not been specific on how long that will be, whether it's like 6 months, 9 months, a year, but they're not going to completely lock them down. It's just that out of the box, if you get a phone and you try and do something shady with it, or if you try and be a good customer about it, the phone is still locked to Verizon.
That's crazy. Well, like unlocked phones are worth a lot more. And if you actually get your phone unlocked after you've used it for a while, you're trying to sell it or something, everyone from another country is going to want to try to buy it.
It's true.
That was my experience. I unlocked my iPhone 5 and I put it and I advertised it unlocked, and I got so many calls and emails from people from other countries saying, "Can you ship it to Brazil or ship it here?" And I was like, "Sure." So unlocked phones are definitely a huge value, and it's a bummer that Verizon's just gonna lock them down now.
Did you happen to get any emails from a Nigerian prince?
No.
Okay,
no.
Wanted to make sure.
I think that they caught that guy, actually. They finally caught that dude. Yeah. My dad was telling me, he's like, "Did you hear that they caught the Nigerian prince?" It's like actually a dude.
Yeah, the email scammer guy.
Yeah, and he got busted finally.
After all these years. I don't know how much he made from it, but man.
Well, my dad was saying every time like a new company would go public or just, put their information, like when you start a new company, you have to build a website and do all this stuff, and you have to like report in the newspaper that the company is live. He said the Nigerian prince would just look for that stuff, and as soon as a new company would come into existence, he would contact them. And so, like, my dad does a lot of like consulting for business and stuff, and he people would always just joke, and they would start a new company, and he'd be like, "Have you heard from the Nigerian prince yet?" And sometimes they'd be like, "Yes, I have," and he's like, "Yeah, because you just registered your company." So it's funny.
Oh, it's funny. So. This last kind of story before we get into the calls, Apple had their shareholders meeting. This is how much like attention gets paid to Apple, right? I think is it yearly or is it quarterly where they hold? No, it's yearly. They hold a meeting on Apple campus, and if you are a shareholder, whatever amount you have in the company, you're able to actually go and attend this and like ask questions. It's kind of like right, you have a public investment in the company. So sometimes you hope that there's nuggets that come out of this. There weren't too many. Our own CNET's Shar Tibkin was there, and some of the notes that she had pulled, right, they give an overview of what's going on with the company. They vote for the board members, and then they also ask Tim Cook some questions. So some of the things that Tim Cook touched upon, and I'm not going to go into the questions, but just some of the responses so you guys can all hear this. He says that the iPhone 10 customer satisfaction is at 99%.
I saw that.
I don't know about. Honestly, I know that's not true.
It's funny.
It's not 9%. It's not. But depending, the thing is, customer satisfaction surveys start from satisfied, somewhat satisfied, totally satisfied, satisfied beyond belief, satisfied beyond like human recognition. I mean, it's that whole scale. So that was one of the bullet points that came out of it. Apple also had acquired 19 companies in 2017.
Wow.
They do this a lot. 10 of those are unknown, or 10 of those are known. 9 of them are unknown. Huh. Apple also holds almost 250 million subscriptions now across all services. So this could be like anything from iTunes Match to iCloud to Apple Music, almost 250 million there. People ask like, "Hey, Tim, because there's criticism about you, blah, blah, blah. Do you guys have a successor in place?" And he says that they actually have internal candidates that are ready to succeed Tim Cook. Some people might want to see that sooner rather than later.
Oh, wow.
But they do have a succession plan, but they're not going to tell us who it is. They just won't.
That's an awkward question to get at the shareholders meeting. Is there someone who's available to replace you, Tim? Yeah, we've been working on that.
They also talked about their retail stores, saying their physical stores are never going to go away. They believe that the interactions with people still beats anything. And then this is a fun one. Like one of the shareholders, right, straight up like asked Tim Cook if he could get a tour of Apple campus, like Apple Park behind the scenes. And Tim Cook basically said that they're not going to open their main big ring-shaped building for tours because we have so much confidential stuff around.
Oh, wow.
He said keeping stuff confidential is the bane of my existence now. And it's worked wonderfully well under your run. It's so bad. He should have never said we're going to double down on secrecy. So bad.
That place is a fortress now, so you can't even get in.
It doesn't matter if you get it out. Everyone leaks information. They can't control that. They have never been able to control that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what an Apple employee goes through just to get into the building, and like, are they screened or what happens?
It's a body cavity search, I'm pretty sure.
Daily. I'm ready for my daily cavity search.
Hiya! All right. Should we get to the calls?
Let's do it. Yes.
Let's get to the phone calls. Let's show some love to Apple Byte Nation, man. Yeah. Again, if you guys and gals want to be a part of the show, the number is 1-800-616-2638. Name where you're from. Get right to it and let's go.
Yeah, thank you guys all for the calls. We got a bunch of good calls. We narrowed it down to 4 or 5. So let's start with number 1. Oh, wait. We forgot to play this dude at the very beginning who wanted to know about the HomePod. My bad.
Right, he found out all about the HomePod. Just watch the full review, the Apple Byte full review. It'll help you out.
Okay, here we go. Here's call number 1.
Hey guys, this is Bob calling from Stamford, Connecticut. I just finished watching this week's show. Picked up my HomePod yesterday and been playing around with it, having a little bit of fun. But do have one, I don't know if complaint's the right word, question maybe, is I called Apple support just now because I was hoping to use it in my bedroom and have it play music while I'm falling asleep at night and be able to set a sleep timer to shut it off. It doesn't have a sleep timer, apparently. And the tech on the support line said that you can go into the Home app and set up a routine or whatever they call it to have it shut off, but it doesn't appear in the section of the app that does that. So since it's an always-on product, I kind of get it that it doesn't work that way. So interestingly, the main thing that I was hoping to use it for isn't going to work for me. But otherwise, it sounds great, looks cool, and pretty happy with it otherwise. But if you know anything at all about the possibility of how to do a sleep timer function, or whether that might possibly end up being a future software update, which would be great, because that would be a feature I think a lot of people would use. Anyway, take care, guys.
Yeah, man. We didn't touch upon it, but I do think it does look really good in person, especially in a home. It just it looks modern, but it doesn't look. I mean, it does look like a toilet paper roll, but a fancy one. It's something familiar and soft to touch. But to his point, he did call back later and let us know, just for people that are wondering, is you can't do a sleep timer directly through the HomePod, but if you're playing music over AirPlay to the HomePod, which you can do, you can actually set a sleep timer on your phone. And I don't know if any of you have actually done this, but if you actually go into your clock, right, the clock app, and you go all the way over here to your little timer there where it's orange, you can actually, here's the trick. Down here on the bottom, it says when timer ends. And so this when timer ends, there's an option where you can actually change it to stop playing. Select that and then just set the time and it'll stop playing like that. Again, it shows how limited some basic stuff like that is not on the HomePod. I'm sure that's got to be one of those things that they will put into the next software update. If they don't, it's a crime. Like if they don't allow multiple timers in this next update, even though they've never done it in the history of Siri, it's stupid. So hopefully they bring that, but you can do it using AirPlay and then using the timer function on your phone or iOS device, not even phone, like your iPad or your iPhone.
Cool. One thing people haven't mentioned is how heavy the HomePod is. Was that like?
Yeah, but you're gonna pick it up.
Your first reaction?
It was hefty, but I'm not gonna pick it up all the time. Once I put it down, I put it down.
It's funny that every time someone would hold it, they were like the first thing, "Oh my god, it's so heavy! Oh my god!"
Yeah, and then it's like, and what?
Yeah.
I'm like, And what?
Okay, next call. Here we go.
Yo, Brian and Beach, this is Kyle from Chicago. I just switched over to the iPhone 10 from Android, and I love it. Just really not liking Siri. The Google Assistant is so much better. Do you think Apple will ever invest some of its billions of dollars into creating a better Siri? Let's hope. Thanks for taking my call. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, look. The thing is that they've known they've been behind for years. That's what is probably the most frustrating thing for me is that they haven't done anything about it and they let everyone take their lunch. Like Siri came out first, right?
Yes.
They let everyone take their lunch. And now they are it's not even like a little behind, guys. It's a lot. It's a significant gap. It's like when I use Amazon Echo and Google Home together, see, Amazon is all hooked up with all the services and they have all the apps, but the Google Home platform is smarter. It has, Amazon has the platform now, but who knows how it plays out over time. But the Google Home has the potential to be the platform just purely because it's smarter. But everyone is locked in Alexa. Like I'm locked in Alexa, but I also have a Home because it's freaking smart. So they need to get better, but I just don't see. It's not their expertise. It's not their specialty. How they can make such a dramatic leap to even be remotely close to either Amazon or Google Home right now. I just don't see it. But hey, I'll let them prove me wrong.
Yeah. Google Assistant's definitely my go-to right now when I have random questions because it understands context, it understands a lot of things. It's really interesting how much it understands what you're trying to ask,
I mean, even stuff like, yeah, fine. It will maybe. Actually, I shouldn't even assume this. It might end up getting it, but you can order pizza, you can order a car ride service from these devices. Like Apple, you can't even put a calendar appointment from a HomePod right now. You can't even do a calendar appointment.
You could do to-do lists. I think that's about it.
Yeah, you can do a reminder. You can do a
reminders.
But you can't add something to your calendar. Okay, that's pretty low hanging fruit.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along. We got a couple more calls. Here we go.
Hey guys, it's David from Jersey. On the last show, someone mentioned they lost all their iCloud photos and the iCloud backup. And what I do for my photos is I make sure that I back it up to a different service other than the Apple iCloud first, because if you back up all your photos to iCloud and you have the photo optimization setting turned on, you're only going to get backups of the lower resolution versions of your photos. So what I do is I back them all up to Dropbox and also to Amazon Prime Photo prior to plugging my phone in and connect it to Wi-Fi where it will naturally do a backup automatically with the iCloud photos. Just thought that's a good little tip there so people get the full resolution backups. Thanks a lot. Hope it's helpful. Bye.
I dig that, man.
Yeah, that's smart.
That's the community looking out for each other. I love that. Thanks so much for that call. We appreciate stuff like that.
It's funny, though, that he's backing it up to other places before he backs up to iCloud, though.
Well, you got it. But, to the point is, yeah, you've got to.
You have to.
Even before we could do cloud storage, I would have 2 hard drives that were redundant on top of my actual hard drive so that I have all my files and stuff.
Yeah, I do the same.
So
cool. All right. And Amazon Prime Photos is pretty awesome, too. Like, I have gigs on there. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but I got unlimited, at least for X amount of years on Google, baby.
Oh, yeah. But does that resizes, though? Is it resizing?
No, full res, man.
Full
res, man.
Nice.
Full resolution.
Cool. All right. Here, I think we have one more. Yeah, one more. Here we go.
Beach and Tongue, Mike from New York City. Was just listening to the Extra Munchy Crunchy, and I have a comment. You guys were talking about Apple not having a streaming service yet still, and actually I think they're pursuing the right direction. With the Apple TV app, the idea of having a la carte services, whether it's Hulu or Netflix or HBO or whatever I want to choose, having that and a single sign-on is really the direction I think that this really needs to go, rather than have some service that they're just another, outlet out there that you can choose from. If they come up with a single service option and a la carte, price plans where you can just pretty much have single sign-on and get whatever services you choose, I think that's the direction that I would want to spend my money on, as opposed to any service where they're kind of predictating what you actually get for the money. All these other guys are cable clones, so to speak. So I think Apple has the right idea. They just have to be able to close the deal with all the programmers. So let me know what you think. Great show. Keep it up. Love you guys. Peace out.
Love you.
Love you back, bro. You know what? I think you make a great point. And I think in a perfect world, yeah, they could do it. But the people that are really controlling this is the cable networks and the content holders, because, right, when you have a cable package, and he probably already knows this, obviously, is that you have a lot of networks that are like loss leaders. And so you get something like, even though they're not doing so hot anymore, ESPN, right, is one of those networks that's why people get cable, or that's why people used to get cable. And you have all these other networks that ABC says, okay, well, if you're going to get ESPN, you're going to also take on these 5 or 6 other networks alongside of it. And until Apple is willing to pay them enough for a single network that also covers the cost for people not picking up their other networks that are normally bundled in a cable plan that they've already kind of have in place, Apple's got to dish out major bucos in order for that to happen. And up to this point, they've shown that they can't do that, right? They have shown that they can't even come up with a regular deal. I don't even mind if that is the goal or that's the vision for Apple to get to the point that you're talking about. I think it was it Mike in New York? I hope I'm right, because I heard a bunch of names. But if I think that even if that was the goal that they were trying to get to, they should have still done the cable streaming service, because people are doing it, and it's another revenue stream that they just don't have anymore because they decided to not cut a deal with the cable networks. And yeah, they have this grand vision, but we've seen how the TV networks and content providers aren't going to play the same way with Apple that maybe the music labels did, because of how much the music labels needed Apple at the time. You can go to Roku, you can go to Hulu, you can go to Chromecast, you can go to Amazon Fire Stick. They don't need Apple. So
yeah, true. Well, that's all she wrote, man. We're done.
That's all she wrote.
That's all
all right,
she
guys. Thank you so much for calling and making the show pop as usual. That's going to do it. It is Apple Byte Extra Crunchy. Remember, call us again, 1-800-616-2638. We'll put you on the show. But until then, hey, if you guys, other people finally picked up a HomePod, call us. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear about it. We want to talk about it more. And hopefully there will be no other white ringish issues.
Hopefully not.
Let's just hope. It's only been a week, Apple. Come on. All right. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Peace. Today's show is brought to you by Jamf Now. Apple device management can be time-consuming work, especially if IT isn't your day job. But with Jamf Now, keeping up with your equipment is a breeze. Jamf Now helps you manage your Apple devices from anywhere. Need to secure that iPad that your sales rep lost while visiting home for the holidays? Bah humbug, shame on you. And now our listeners can set up their first 3 devices for free. Add more for just $2 a month per device. Start securing your business today. Go to jamf.com/crunchy to create a free account and set up your 3 free devices today. That's jamf, JAMF.com/crunchy.